Hey there, welcome to an episode of Power Up. It's a fun one as well. We've got an amazing guest and I can't wait to chat playing, watching, reading with her. Trisha Hershberger and I are going to be entertaining your Friday evenings. If you're watching this on the VOD on Geek Bomb, sup, thank you so much for watching this particular episode. Is this a happy dance, Trish? I don't think I've seen that one before.
Yeah. And, impromptu happy dance. It's Friday. We've got a special guest on today. Life's good.
I just moved house. I'm going to have a beverage. This is going to be an amazing afternoon. So without further ado, let's bring on our guest, Deborah Ann Woll, guys.
Hi, everyone.
Is a lovely dear person that I have had the pleasure of playing many a tabletop game with. I thought I just really miss playing.
I know.
So what better way to catch up than to talk about all the geeky things? But if you're not you've got such a iconic sort of face, but if you don't recognize it, Deb has been in True Blood, where she played Jessica, the young newly born vampire.
Yes.
She's also in Daredevil and Punisher, and she's done all this amazing geeky stuff. But what I love the most is that she is in actual fact a real geek.
I'm a real dungeon master.
And I kind of want to chat with you about that. As an actor especially, do you get these roles within the geek space, like comic book characters? Mm-hmm. And do you think that it is better for the character to have a geeky background than learn it for the first time?
Ooh. Well, that's a great question. I'm a bit of a fraud in that department because I'm not a comic book person. I didn't grow up reading comic books or anything like that. So coming into those shows, I was not from that perspective. However, my partner is. He's a huge comic book fan, loves it. So I did have the advantage of having someone at home when I got that part going.
Oh, that's
and who could tell me like, oh, you have to read that run and this one and that. So I had a really good resource library at my disposal, and I do think that's helpful. But the fact is that actors, in my experience, really, really good ones, are geeks anyways. We're just drama geeks, so we love research. So when you get a part like that, even if I hadn't had him in my life, I would have geeked out like crazy all over the material because it's just exciting to get into another story.
And I also, expanding on that geek thing, I feel like because geeks know how precious particular characters and stories and genres can be, it's a little bit more of that respect instead of inserting creative license over and being like, well, I know that this is what it's supposed to be and has been for decades, but what if I give them a German accent? And you're like, oh my God, what are you doing?
Or at least if you do change something, you know that it's about evolution, that it's about how do we honor what's been and bring it into the next decade or, tell it again in a different way. Because I think, as you know, as a female in this space, it was largely dominated by men for a long time. And so it's been really exciting as a woman to sort of take these characters and insert our perspectives a bit more strongly and let that lead the story a bit. But hopefully doing that while also saying, hey, there's this incredible wealth of information that's going to inform my choices in that direction.
Mm-hmm. Was there ever a specific character or project that you were cast as or in that you totally geeked out over, that you were already had background knowledge and were like, oh my gosh, yes, this is my bucket list job?
Oh, boy. I mean, I Geek and Sundry asked me to make a Dungeons and Dragons show. I wrote it, I ran it. It's called Relics and Rarities. Please go watch it. It's one of the proudest accomplishments of my career. And I think that was a bit of it because at that point I had been hardcore into D&D for quite a few years and had been pretty private about it. So the idea that someone said, hey, we really like your stories and we want to work with you and collaborate on something. That was the thing where I was that was the first moment where I cannot believe I am being paid to play one of my hobbies, to play a game with my friends. And it's considered, engaging entertainment. So that was the one that I think I geeked out the most over.
Yeah, you can technically say you're a professional gamer now.
I'm a professional gamer, a tabletop gamer too. Not even...
That's really intimidating as well, as a DM, to kind of not only get a compelling story, but place characters in it, not really knowing their gameplay style and hoping that it's going to complement each other. What were some of the biggest learning curves you had as that? Because I've been in the same situation with Dungeons and Dragons, where it's just it's more improv based and you really have to relinquish a lot of control.
Well, but I think anyone who does it knows that when you do, those are the best stories. Like the best moments really do come when you let your players take agency, you know, and I'm a big believer. I really like players to play in the present. So I'm happy to have my players go make a huge backstory about where they came from and have a whole bunch of lore. But for me, the moments that define character is that moment when Ricky the Huckster stepped in front of Beryl and took the mummy punch because he already had rot and he didn't want her to get it. Like, that's a defining character moment that we all get to be present for, rather than spending 20 minutes having him talk about, oh, well, when I was living in the forests of Deborah, you know, whatever it was, you know. So I try to really encourage present play. And I think if you do that and you trust your players, they're gonna make decisions and they're gonna go down roads. And as long as you just say, yep, yes, let's go down that road.
Figure it out.
Yeah.
That's it.
And Deborah,
my favorite adventures have been ones where they went right when I had only created left. And then I just have to go, great, I'm just going to use my imagination and know as little as you do. And I'm just going to say a name, and that's the name of the place. Okay, great. Now this exists. My
favorite part with that is when they go, oh, does this mean this particular thing? And it's brilliant. And you're like, that's exactly what
One of my favorite things is to say, sure, you can know that. You know, like, sure, if they're like, does that mean that this street is called, you know, Three Board Road? And I'm like, sure.
Yeah.
You can know that. You can know that. Why not?
Yeah. What's your path of perception? Because you saw that coming.
Sure.
We have sorry, there's a comment at the moment where it's like I had to make up a name on the spot. I ended up calling her the poor bitch because the poor bitch had a situation.
Why not, right?
But I had to just roll with it.
Well, I try to keep my NPC names are always like Mary or like that. I do not try to do fancy like Forgotten Realms names. My characters are named Charlie.
You need like another tab with the fantasy name generator site just pulled up so you can put in the race real quick and just click generate and get something up. Now, I've always been too frightened to DM. You both DM. I've always been too frightened to DM, although I've been playing since high school. So, Deborah, my question to you is, did you start out as a player and transition to being a dungeon master, or did you just right away jump into, I want to be the storyteller?
I mean, a little bit of both. So my first campaign, I learned and I was a player, but pretty soon after that, I wanted to play more. I wanted to play with other friends and no one else knew how to play. So if we were going to, I sort of had to run it. And then when that first campaign that I learned how to play, when that ended, we decided to do a round robin DM where each sort of level or sort of not one shot, but like 2 or 3 shot area to explore, we would trade. And so that was the first time that I wrote something and created it. And I had so much fun having someone play. Then I ran Phandelver's Lost Mines of Phandelver.
That's like the first one, right?
That's their like starter set game. So I ran that with a lot of customization for my first attempt at DMing, which was great because I had a guide, but I still was like, I don't like that. You know, like this is what I want to kind of do instead. And then since then it's been all original material, and I much prefer running original material, mostly because of that improv element. Because if someone goes left when I expected them to go right, I don't have to like start flipping pages. I just go, great, let's make it up together.
Yeah, I'm a bit the same. I didn't even know that there were sort of like preconditioned locations or, you know, when I first started playing, I was like, anything goes. And I know my relationship with fantasy, so I'm going to pull from all of those things. And then all of a sudden someone's like, oh, have you been playing Forgotten Realms? And I'm like, what?
At first I was like, what does that mean? You know, I guess I am. I'm playing and it feels like that, but I like it.
Have you gone to Waterdeep?
Yeah. But
3 times.
To that end, though, I've been running Storm King's Thunder now for a group for about 3 years. They're right at the end. It's like big bad right around the corner.
Oh, I was there. I died with the whole. We had a TOK, like TPK. Everyone died. Kyle was in that one actually.
Yeah. So. And that's been a really great learning experience, and taking an improv feeling that you would in your own campaign, to the written material is something I've learned through that process. Being really open to, if I can't find it in 4 seconds, then I'm going to make it up.
Yep.
And again, they got really fascinated in Mournbryn's tomb. I don't know if you've played Storm King, you might have come across that. There's a point where the Zentarum are looking for Mournbryn's tomb, and it's a little footnote in a town. And my players got obsessed with Mournbryn's tomb, but that doesn't exist in Storm King's Thunder. Like, there's no adventure for it. So I wrote like a 3-session encounter where they went and they found it. And it was great because for me, it was puzzles. It was the stuff I like to do. And I gave them a really fabulous magic item at the end of it for being creative, you know?
Oh, that's cool. I love that. Yeah, I was going to say, I don't remember that at all.
No. We have to stumble across it. And they were obsessed with finding this tomb. And I was like, it's not in there.
So we had a game, obviously we haven't played in a little while, but I made a massive revelation. Your character was Kiki, and Kiki was the human fighter who ran basically the postal service of the Forgotten Realms.
Mm-hmm. She's a male woman.
She's a male woman. I've been getting into Ghibli movies for the first time.
Okay.
I have been going through all of the titles out there, and I got to Kiki's Delivery Service. You named your character Kiki.
I did.
After Kiki's Delivery Service.
No, I've never seen it.
What?
No, I've never seen it.
I was just like, I felt like such an idiot because I've been playing with this Kiki male woman this whole time, and then I saw the movie and I was like, oh no, that's obviously.
I honestly had no idea. Honestly, have never seen the movie. I'm aware of it only because a bullet journalist that I watch really loves those movies, so she talks about it sometimes. But no, Kiki was a name I used for another character, and I just liked it. It kind of worked for who this woman was, so I just borrowed the name from another character. But I just liked the idea of playing. What occurred to me was that being a mail carrier on the Sword Coast would be an extremely dangerous job because you'd have to go through all these really dangerous areas. So you'd probably be well trained. So I like the idea that she's been a loyal member of the Sword Coast Postal Service for 25 years. Yes. My name is Kiki Orion. Pleased to meet you. And she's real tough, real powerful.
I love it. You're like, you don't understand. Like, she has thick thighs.
Oh, yeah.
It makes like it really hurts.
Yes. It's really, really tough. And
Mother of
very fast. So I found a variant, a human variant of like the family of Orion, and they have like some speed magic and things like that because they're like transportation. So I borrowed a little bit, and I was like, if this is her family line is to be these incredible postal workers, that she she has these like fun little she has like a Misty Step trick that she can do, things like that, because she's just really good at transportation.
So now, Maude and Deborah, you two have played together before, right?
Yeah. This is the game we play. Yeah.
We were playing Ice Fire Peak.
She has a cool.
I had a DMing Ice Fire Peak, and I played it I have been running it so differently to what we've been playing. Thank goodness, it's not the same.
Yeah.
You know,
experience.
My character in that one, she is a highborn. I think she's a high elf that didn't want to do noble life because she had insane battle lust for killing beasts.
For killing what?
So, beasts. Like, she's a beast player.
Anything mean, yeah.
But she gets really dark when it comes to slaughtering. But she's also been highborn raised. So it's this really strange juxtaposition of being super delicate and precious in terms of sleeping outdoors, and she has the finest of everything. But then as soon as it comes to doesn't care about reward money either, because she's always had so much money that it's not an issue. But as soon as it comes into getting the status of being, the beast slayer and having that reputation of she will handle anything, that really kind of, is her motivation. But there's a couple of times where I was playing her where I was like, well, she's incredibly privileged. And she was so sort of confined into growing up in the nicest part of the Citadel. And so she would actually be experiencing all these new scenarios and new different races that she'd never come across. And then I remember Jeremy came in and played a turtle, and I was like, oh, my character has never seen a turtle, and she wouldn't touch it. And I was just like, oh man, I am literally doing this whole sort of white privilege, almost like racist Karen shit. And so her character was actually going to evolve from being in this tiny little circle and only knowing her way and that being superior to breaking down that wall and kind of like relearning and reestablishing. And then I had a big think about that. I'm like, what's the psychology behind this, Maude? Like, you're not a bad person. And then I realized it was actually kind of like living in Australia my whole life and then coming over to America. And it's like I had my particular way, and then it's like a total different sort of like culture shock in some regions and trying to like learn and allow.
Interesting. But Deborah, are you originally from the States?
Yes, I was born and raised in New York, in Brooklyn.
At what point did you come to California?
I came to LA for college and then stayed because I started getting work. I don't know if we'll stay here forever. But I do like LA. I enjoy my life here. We've got great friends and things like that. So that's, I think yeah, it feels like home now, I think.
Yeah.
And you've been keeping, oh, you go, Trish. Sorry.
I was just going to say, what was that transition like from theater student to starting to book work? Because I would bet that we at least have more than a few people in chat watching that are hoping to make that transition, and there are a lot of people who study theater in college and then never make that next step to actually getting work. So what was that process like for you?
I was incredibly lucky. It was definitely, I almost feel like I shouldn't talk about it because it went very well for me. I'm in many ways been struggling and going through the transition more recently, I feel. But, I went to college. I had an amazing experience in college. I really appreciated that time. And then when I got out, I had a showcase where my plan was to like go to the UK and continue studying and do Shakespeare the rest of my life. But I ended up getting representation out of that. And they said, well, since you're here for the summer, why don't we send you out on a few things? And I ended up booking a series. So I was here doing that. So it's almost like, without any regret. I mean, the work that I've gotten to do, I've made some amazing friends and I've learned so much and I'm a better actor because of it. But it does mean that like my little girl dreams for myself when I was going to move and do Shakespeare never really quite happened. So in a way now is when I'm trying to like transition and get myself back onto that sort of trajectory and start doing those things that I missed. So yeah, so in a way, I feel like a 21-year-old again, kind of going, oh, I hope they like me, because now if I'm trying to get back into theater, I'm not really a part of that world anymore. So it does feel like starting a bit from scratch.
Do you have a favorite Shakespearean role that you are like dying to do someday?
I mean, my favorite Shakespearean, well, let's see. I have a lot of them. I like the problem plays. I really like Measure for Measure. It's a strange play with a really weird ending. I like All's Well That Ends Well. Same thing, weird play with a weird ending. I think they're fun. They're fun, but you have to kind of accept the fact that they don't end the way you want them to, and maybe find ways to make that work for yourself. But the language is so incredible. Trying to think if there's someone particularly that's like been on my mind recently. I mean, Isabella and Helena from Measure for Measure and All's Well are the two incredible roles, and I got to do them both in college in sort of a smaller scale. But actually now that I'm getting older, I hadn't really thought about it, but now that I'm getting older, I would love to look, more into those cool ones, because I'm getting to like Lady Macbeth territory.
I was just gonna say Lady M.
I know. It'd be cool to think about that. Yeah, I don't know.
I was going to say, even though you were kind of like have a little bit of a lull since everything's shut down and it's weird times and blah, blah, but you have some pretty cool news that's only just recently been announced to do with D&D. Do you want to tell us all about that?
Yeah. So Manticore Games, I think is what it's called. They reached out because they're doing a kind of collaboration with Dungeons and Dragons and Extra Life to raise money for charity. They have this incredible platform where regular people like you and I who have no experience with game development or programming or creation can go on and use their system to create a game world. that then gets published online, and multiplayers, anyone on the internet, can jump in and play in your world. Like, amazing, right?
Yeah.
And it's early stages and stuff, so they're figuring things out. And they've got a really cool like castle world. You can make these amazing dungeons and things with interactive bits and spells that you can cast. So as part of their launch, they asked if myself and some other D&D people would get involved and sort of take a look at this platform as a dungeon master storyteller. So I don't want to reveal too much about what we're all doing for it. But yeah, it's going to be a really cool thing to be a part of, and sort of, I can't wait to see what other people create, because in many ways as a dungeon master, we've been sharing our dungeons for a long time. So now I get to see some other people's dungeons. It's going to be cool.
Man, that's so cool.
Yeah.
That is very cool. If people want to find out more about that, is there like a destination for it?
I mean, I would look up Manticore Games. Lost Odyssey is involved. It's on my, I'll be promoting it on my stuff as well. I'm not real up on the social media names and stuff, but look those things up. You'll find us.
Can do. Great Q&A chat. I want to get stuck into power, guys. Yay. How's that? All right. So we're going to take a little
Sorry,
break.
My light's getting crazy here. I can't really.
That's okay. That's okay. So yeah, Deborah, hang on for 1 second, and we'll be right back with you for power. Okay.